So we have folks who are now in week 2 or coming into week 2 of this semester, and working with grading students, giving them feedback, communicating with them. It's really an important part of the course. It's the reason why we do course design, is to actually facilitate the course. So I want to jump into what I call my practice course. If you want to be enrolled into something like this practice course that is a designed course that has fake students so you can practice, let us know. But the practice course is a fake course that is not being taught, but for the sake of today, we're going to use it so we can interact and see, how do we grade students? How do we interact with students? So the first thing I've done is I've logged into Brightspace. You can see from the home page, I went over onto my courses and I clicked on my practice course, whatever course I want to go into. When you first land in this front screen, I want you to think about this screen as the standard what's going on in my course. It doesn't have the content of the course, and this is what I emphasize to students as well, but this is what is going on inside that course. So you have your image at the top here, but you also have this incredibly powerful announcements tool. And I see a lot of folks that don't really leverage this, and it's a really important way to send mass communications out to the entire class, as opposed to having to individually email students or bulk email students. It goes to their inbox. We have to worry about them reading it. The announcements not only go to their email inbox, but also show up as a notification inside Brightspace, and also show up inside the front page of your course. So I think the announcements tool tends to be, it hits them from all angles. So to add a brand new announcement, if you haven't added one before, you're going to go ahead and click out. You're going to see me refer to these a lot. They're called carrots or downward arrows. When you click on the downward arrows, you go down here to new announcement. It's going to bring you to the announcement editing screen. So I want you to think about headline as like the subject line of an email. So when I click on headline, I want this to be a short, sweet summary of what I'm trying to tell them. The first week of courses, one thing I like to do is I'd like to do a welcome to my students to let them know, A, who I am, get them used to me, get them used to my weird, sarcastic style inside the course. They don't think I'm yelling at them. It's just a really good way to get your tone and your voice across. You can also use this instead of just the welcome. It could also be used to give course updates or give your own perspective on the current event or something happening that's relevant to your course content. So for headline here, I'm going to do myself a welcome for now, just make it easy. So I'm going to say, welcome to this course. Underneath content, that's going to be where you're adding the text or the content of whatever you want to say. So this is our subject line of the email. This would be the email itself in this case. So underneath content, I want to give them a little welcome, let them know who I am. So welcome to this course. You can type. This is an exciting opportunity to learn about people's psychology and how to work with it. So something as simple as that. Now I may want to take this welcome to this course and make this a header as opposed to just having it all one line of text. So I might click here, hit enter to move this down to another line, highlight welcome to this course. And instead of just bumping up the size, I'm actually going to go over here to where it says paragraph, go underneath where it says heading 1, 2, 3 of different styles, choose heading 1. You can see it instantly bumps this up. Now this does two things. Not only is it more visually appealing, but it also goes and makes sure that it's readable by anybody using a screen reader. So if you do have a blind student or a visually impaired student, this is a great way to help them with some of the tools that they may be using. Not only can you do text, you can actually get a little bit fancier here. So I don't just have to stick with just words. I can use this button over here called the Insert Stuff button. This is one of my favorite buttons. This means I'm adding something into my announcement, especially when we're talking PCS who are using master courses and facilitating that course. A lot of the content that you have is already driven by the course. So you want to be a little bit more cautious about how much you add in here. But if, let's say I was teaching business and a huge current event happened surrounding the state of business in the world, I don't want to rely on the master course to just have that content. I might want to add some useful articles relevant to what we're talking about. For me, because I'm using this as a mock psychology course, I may look at things like how the immigration laws have been affecting the well-being of psychological states in children. So that might be something I would bring into my announcement, just bring a little bit of a take on. Because it's my welcome, I'm not necessarily going to add that in there, but I am going to use Insert Stuff to see what kinds of things I can insert in. The first thing is I can grab something from my computer. So this is something I'm uploading. It could be a Word document. It could be an Excel document. It could be an SPSS file. It could be any type of file that you're taking from your hard drive and putting it into Brightspace. So I'm going to click on my computer. It's going to ask me to choose a file to upload that. And you can see I have a bunch of different files on my computer that I might want to add in there. I typically will go grab like a journal article I want to discuss, or a current event article, or a link to something. So I have my courses. I want to do something on psychology papers here. Awesome. So I got something on cumulative cultural learning. Perfect. Hit open, upload. And what this is saying when you say link text is I can either insert this whole long line where it links over to that PDF, or I could say here about read this article. So whatever I type in here now becomes the link that they click on to insert or to read that paper that I just uploaded. So there's a way that I can just add a great little article for them to read. You can do the same thing with images, pictures, videos, you name it. The only thing I always recommend is just be conscientious of the workload of your students. So if you already have a master course designed with 5, 6, 7 different pieces of reading in there, and you yourself are adding another 3, that may be increasing the workload of your students. So just be cognizant of that. I typically will put a little disclaimer on anything I put in there, like you're not required to read this, but I find it's interesting and I'm going to tell you why. In addition to that, you can actually link over to course files as well that are already in there. So if I'm not uploading something, but I want to bring their attention to something in the announcements, you don't necessarily have to create something new. That same insert stuff button can be used to grab something from the course offering files to link over. I do find it easier though, instead of using the insert stuff button, to use the link button in this case. So the link button is 2 over from the insert stuff button. I'm going to click on this and it brings down all the things I can link to. So again, when I'm using the insert stuff, I'm pulling something from my computer and putting it in. When I'm using the link, I'm grabbing something that already exists either within D2L or somewhere online. So I may actually link over to something like an upcoming quiz, just let them know, hey guys, just so you know, this quiz opens on this day, good luck. Here's things you can do to prepare. Here's some strategies I think would be useful for you. I'm going to link to a quiz in this example here. So I'm going to go over to scroll down. Actually, let's do a discussion. I'm going to click on discussions here. You can see all my discussion forums. The key is to keep clicking until you find the discussion you want to link to. So I could say like, here's what is human research. And you can see it links in there. And you can type right around there. So I can say like, you have a new discussion coming up this week. Be sure to respond early and engage with others. Remember, you get out what you put in to this course. And this is just a good way of linking to something that's already in there. So I have my article that I've uploaded from my computer, and then below this link, when they click on it, takes them directly to the discussion forum. I use this a lot for exams when something is new coming up for a quiz or exam, to let them know like, hey, good luck. And then here's some helpful strategies I think to help make you successful in preparing for your exam. So it decreases a little bit of that test anxiety. Also for big assignments or big papers that are coming up, hey guys, like here's some writing resources I might link to, like OWL Purdue, let them know, or the Academic Success Center, or in PCS's case, like the ARC, give them some resources that they might need. Now, the most powerful tool, and Reggie, you had mentioned this, that I like is video. Now, as an online student who's been in the student shoes and as in the instructor's shoes, there's nothing more powerful than your presence as an instructor in the course. So you're going to hear me talk about video a lot during this workshop. The insert stuff button, when you click on this, as you scroll down, has an option for what's called video note. This by far, for me, is the most powerful tool that you can use in your announcements, because it makes your presence as a human being seem accessible in your class. So when I click on video note here, I don't need anything fancy. I just have my webcam. Here I am. I have my standard laptop microphone. You could also do this from an iPhone, from an iPad, from an Android device, anything that has some sort of webcam or camera capabilities on it and internet. You'll be able to connect up to this video note. So I'm going to record a video note for my students. So I'm going to go ahead here. Welcome to this class. I am so glad to have you. I'm Bree Perkins. I'm the Learning and Development Coordinator. If you have any questions about the content, please feel free to reach out to me at bperkins@Springfield College. I'm so happy you're in this course, and I really hope you find the content as fascinating as I do. Welcome to this class. So you can see it pulls up. Glad to have. Hit next. If my hair looked really, really good that day, I'm going to title this and use this for like the next 30 years. If not, just feel free to go to the next screen. But what's great about this is this puts the video note directly in line in the text. It may take a moment to process through. It is limited to 3 minutes. So you can't go on a long-winded analysis of like what you feel with the theories and whatnot. It's limited to that 3 minutes, so it really does keep you succinct. But it's just a good way to get your presence in the class and let them know that you're there. As a best practice too, I do see some faculty, and this is not just PCS, but on the traditional side as well, I've been guilty of it, of if you make one blip or blurb or my dog starts barking, I throw away the take and redo it. As a student, one thing I've learned is that those types of things make you feel human and make you feel connected to your instructor. So I would recommend not being super critical of what you're doing with video. Be sure to be human. Allow yourself, I have a dog that likes to jump up on my lap literally every time that the camera comes on. Thank goodness I'm not home right now. But he just pops up and you'll just see his head. And he's quiet, but he just sits there the entire time I'm doing announcements. So those types of things make it approachable. It's becoming a running gag in my class that Cody just pops up and is my co-instructor. So make sure that you're not being overly critical and trying to make these perfect. It's supposed to be that interaction. You're not perfect when you stand up in front of a class. You're not perfect when you're online. So you shouldn't be trying to recreate that. So I have my media. It's inputted inside here. I've got my text. I've got my links. Now keep in mind too, as you scroll down here, if you wanted to, you don't have to remember to do this before every quiz. You can actually schedule these out ahead of time. So I can use my start date to set this out. If I know that the quiz is coming up on the 26th, I might set this to go out on the 26th. Word of advice. If you're using Video Note and you are recording all of these back to back, be sure to change your clothes. I know it sounds really weird, but like the only piece of feedback I got from students that was ever negative was like, oh my God, does she own any other outfits? Because I recorded all of my video notes on the same day. And so I was wearing the exact same shirt every single day. So just be sure, change your clothes, put on a hat, or just let them know you're recording them all the same day, or they're going to think you're a weird person that has one outfit. End date is date that the announcement is removed. So if it is about a quiz that's coming up on the 26th, once they complete it on the 26th, they may not care about it on said 27th day. So I would go to remove that announcement on the 27th, so that way they don't have to see it again. Typically, this is not defaulted because there's no harm in leaving an announcement up. You can also, if your hair did not look good that day, even if you can't do video, you can still do audio. Now, I know this is big for me. Like I know you, Reggie, you were talking about earlier how, you've been grading all day. When I'm grading or when I'm giving announcements and working with students, sometimes it's like midnight and I'm wearing like a Batman onesie. My hair's up. It's a mess. It does not look good. But I still want them to have that kind of personal contact with me. But the Batman onesie kind of diminishes any sort of authority I might have. So I would click on record audio, still be able to give an audio announcement to them. You can also easily attach a file from here as well if you forget where the insert stuff button is. When you're all set, hit publish, and it publishes this out to the class. Now keep in mind, you have a 5-minute leeway. So if you publish something and you're reading through it and you go, oh my God, I shouldn't have said that. You can actually click on this, go to delete, or go and click the arrow to edit this. So you have the ability to delete and edit announcements after the fact. So I'm going to delete this one out of this course, and you can see it pulls it right back out. And you can see all of my announcements will be in this list. To get back to this at any stage, if you go back to your course, clicking on the title of the course here, and you click on where it says announcements, and you click on the arrow, you hit go to announcements tool, and it brings you to that entire list. So it's just a good way of seeing all the announcements in your course, making sure things are going as scheduled, seeing what dates and times things are released, and also searching. So if I need to search an announcement and be able to find out where something was, I have that. So that's your announcements tool. As you scroll down further, you'll also notice another tool that we typically don't touch on a lot in trainings called the activity feed. And the reason we don't cover this in a lot of trainings is because the activity feed and the announcements tool actually do almost the exact same thing. And the reason D2L has both of them right now is because right now they do slightly different things with the scheduling. Eventually, though, the activity feed will replace the announcements tool and it will become one product. Think of the activity feed more as like the social networking feel of an announcement forum. So as opposed to me just sending blurbs out to students, this is like a Facebook wall where not only can you make posts to students, but they can also interact with it as well. So you'll see where I have a big plus sign here. It says create post. I can click on this and do either a message or even an assignment from this view. If you are a facilitator of a course, you may not see the assignment part of this, or we wouldn't recommend using the assignment piece of this, but I can definitely send a message to students and put my announcement right in there. It's just a slightly different interface. Again, it doesn't have all of the features that the announcements tool has yet. Eventually those will be combined, but we're not there just yet. But that's your activity feed. On the right-hand side, you have your updates, as well as calendar of any due dates coming up. Now, what's nice about these is these are hyperlinkable. So like if I have something coming up, like my team teach, if I click on this, it takes me right over to the assignment itself. And it's just a quick overview of that. Now, if you're teaching a course, you may also have some in-person events or calendar things that you would like to add that are not necessarily due dates and not necessarily content in the course, and that's totally fine. If I wanted to add in, let's say I'm doing a workshop or there's a workshop on campus on inclusivity in the classroom and I want my cultural diversity class to come in, I might want to go in and click on the arrow. Again, you're going to see those arrows all over the place next to calendar, and you're going to go to calendar. This takes you to the entire calendar widget. And you'll see all of your due dates right on that calendar as well. Now I can click the blue button to create an event myself, just like this. I might choose to do things like my office hours this way. So it pops up on their calendars. Meet with me to discuss questions and concerns. And again, anywhere that you have the ability to type, you can add video, you can add those links to things. You have the insert stuff button. And you can see here it's going to ask, when do you want to have those? So I have them all day, or I'm doing it certain times of days. And if they're office hours that are recurring, I don't need to add it in for every single time I have office hours. If I know my office hours are every Wednesday, so there's my Wednesday from 3:30 to 4 p.m., a little bit of a small window for folks, but you know, I can click add recurrence and say I recur weekly. I repeat on Monday as well, and it ends at the end of the semester. So it's just a quick and easy way to add in like your office hours to the calendar. And I can even put a location so people know where I'm located inside the building. Hit create. And now on my calendar, you'll see office hours will start to pop up. So you can also add tasks for yourself as well, just to keep you up to date, but your calendar tools is pretty useful. If you add something to the calendar manually like this, it does pop up on your student's calendar. So don't be putting your doctor's appointments and things like that on there. There's other calendars for that, but this is a good way of you communicating things.
Speaking of the video, had a student in the introduction forum post a video, which was great.
Yes.
However, what are you finding as common practice? Are facilitators wanting them to respond to the form in writing plus put the video? What made me think of that is I'll probably use that technique. I don't know that I would use only a video. I think I'd have something written because I have different kinds of learners. What's your thought on that?
That is a great question, and this actually goes up to the pedagogical level of this. I argue against the idea of different types of learners. I believe people have different skill sets, but there's not necessarily a vision, and this is actually, it's been proven by psychology, there's not actually like a visual learner versus a text learner. There's things that we've been trained to be better at based on our education, and that's when we really want to be intentional with the types of assignments that we do. So I actually put mixes of assignments. So instead of just doing written ones, I have written ones that you cannot do a video one for. I specifically say it has to be text, but I also have assignments that I tell them that this is a video tool. And the reason for that is that's a different type of skill. So if I'm having a discussion forum and I have students that are writing, that is a different skill set than learning how to communicate on a webcam, which I think is also equally as valuable nowadays. I wouldn't say a student should entirely make every single discussion post that they do a video. And again, this goes back to what your course was designed for. And it's the
that was just what I was going to ask. If
Yeah.
the course is designed, but it's not real clear in that particular form or assignment, I don't want to be, I don't mind augmenting if it makes sense, but I don't want to be changing up the intent. So anyway, I was just curious.
And actually, this is a great time that you could actually reach out to the course developer. So these are full-time faculty on campus and around. So they're real people that, we don't hire this out to other people to design. Mm-hmm. So we can ask them, what was their intent? Do you want to be able to allow videos? Do you want to, or maybe they give you the option as a facilitator. Right. I would be like, you might give students an option, say, okay, 2 of the discussion posts you can do via video and 2 of them you can do via written. You have to do 2 of each and let me know which ones you decide ahead of time. So that if you have that leeway, but again, I would reach out to the developer, figure out, what was their intent with that. So I'm going to go back. So we have our calendar tool. We talked about announcements. Now I want to talk about feedback and grading. So this front screen, again, is our updates. But then we also have the actual content of the course underneath content, which is what you guys have been exploring. But you also have the ability to grade and interact with students and give feedback. Now, there's multiple ways of doing this. And I know we've gotten people used to the habit. We're kind of lifting the umbrella a little bit and showing you some different ways that you can engage. I encourage folks, especially when we're talking about grading, find the way that works best for you. So it's going to be different for everybody. It's going to be different per assignment even. So the first one I want to show you is grading from within grades. And the second method I'm going to show you is grading from within the assignment itself. So we're going to start from grading within grades. We're going to go in my course. I'm going to go up to the top nav bar here. You see where it says grades. I'm going to click on this. And then it brings us to this big screen that says manage grades, which you don't really have any ability to edit. These are set up ahead of time for you. But there is a tab on this that you can edit that is very, very useful and actually is reminiscent a little bit of Moodle and is part of the part that I did actually like about Moodle. If you click on where it says enter grades, it's one of these tabs at the top here. This brings down the gradebook with all of your students' names as well as all of your assignments. So by default, you're in this view where you see you can't really click and edit anything. There's a button here that says switch to spreadsheet view. So if I was grading something in person where I'm not necessarily going in, reading a paper, I can change this to switch to spreadsheet view and I can actually type in numbers right on the screen. So it's an easy way of just going down like a spreadsheet and entering those numbers in. Now, you can even go a level deeper into this. So you notice one of the reasons why people do say this is a no-no is because there's no feedback involved with this. I'm just giving them a numerical grade.
Correct, right.
But you can go deeper and actually give them a feedback portion from this. So you have inside this gradebook, here's my assignments category, here's my is psychology a science paper. Next to this, I have a little caret. My carets are my best friends, these downward arrows. I click on the caret, I hit grade all. It's going to ask me if you did enter something in there. It's going to ask if you want to save it in there or not. I'm going to hit don't save for now. You're going to see this brings up a little summary about the assignment. So it's psychology, science, good, paper, it's 100 points, it's worth 21% of the feedback. And you have multiple areas you can give feedback. The first one is overall feedback visible to all. This is if I need to send out feedback that is universal to the entire class, not necessarily an individual. Let's say there was something really wrong with my quiz or my assignment that I need to address, and instead of me copying and pasting it 45 times, I can put this in the overall feedback to everybody, or even record a video and let them know how well that they did, or how.
Oh my gosh, this is better by the moment.
Oh, all these fun little things that are hiding inside Brightspace we really haven't even got to dive into yet. These are the things I love. And it gets better. As you scroll down here, you have all of your users listed in line. And get this, if I check this checkbox, I can set the grades as a default, saying I'm going to default everybody to 100 initially, and then change it if they didn't get 100. So it's just an easy way of keeping it better for me. And it gets better. It gets better. It's like Emerald over here. So if I go over here to it says feedback and I have a little pencil, I can actually give them the feedback right here as well. So instead of just a numerical grade now, I'm grading everything for that assignment. I can give them the feedback. If I'm
the individual student as opposed to, okay.
Exactly. So if I wanted to say demo student here got an 80, I'm going to give them some feedback here. So I might say like your paper was really well constructed. And kind of think of too, when you're talking about best practices for feedback, I don't ever write things, and you may already know this, but I don't write things like good job, well done, A+, super effort, thought you did wonderful. I give them constructive things that I thought they did really well on. And I tend to find things that they're curious about and stimulate that a bit. So especially when we're talking psychology, it's really easy for people to go down some sort of weird vein somewhere. And it's not necessarily weird. They're looking at it and they're thinking, okay, their mind just got triggered on this. So I might say your paper is really well constructed. I love the points you made about how culture is absent from a lot of psychological diagnoses. So something similar like that. What's great about using the insert stuff button is I can actually go in and give them something that additional material I think they would be interested in. Again, it's adding that extra flavor. I found this great article that is relevant to the points you covered. It isn't required, but I thought you might be interested. So this is, again, right inside their gradebook feedback. Now I have this here. I want to actually link in this article for them. So I'm going to use my insert stuff button like I did before. I'm grabbing it from my computer or online. I'm going to find this, and I have this great little article on misinformation that I thought would be great for them. Hit upload. And again, you have that link text, article on culture, insert. And now they have this wonderful article inside their grade feedback that is along the lines of the things that they're interested in, that they can read and really stimulate that intellectual curiosity and maybe open up an interest they never knew they had. Now, you have your text that you can write, you have your links, but again, that video note is also a feature in your feedback. A lot of things, especially when we're teaching online, things get lost in translation when you're giving criticism, and it's really difficult to convey that necessarily textually. So if I use my video note, I can do the same thing. So here's my video note. Woo, same process. I'm going to use the new recording. So demo, I'm so glad that you wrote on culture, and it's something that we really didn't talk about inside the course module, but I think is important. I've included a link to an article I think would be really interesting. The only criticism I would have of your paper, or something that I think that we could work on, is APA style. And I know it's tough to learn. There's a lot of resources out there. Don't be afraid to click on the arc in the top left-hand corner. And we have tools like Grammarly as well as our Academic Success Center. If you have questions, feel free to stop by for office hours, email me. We can even meet for virtual office hours. Glad to have you in the class. So you can see how I'm able to give rich feedback in about 15 seconds. I didn't have to type that. My tone, my smile, my body language, all of that still conveyed. I gave them, you know, maybe their APA was just garbage. This is a great way for them to talk about, let's find you the resources to get you in there. So now I'm giving them text feedback. I've got the article linked for them. I've got my video, hit save. I have their grade in there. It's all right in there. And it gets even better. I can actually read the submission from here from the screen as well. So if I click on view submission, it brings up their paper link for me. So I don't necessarily have to go hunting and pecking to find that submission in there. Or I noticed that this Bree Perkins character, she didn't submit something, so she gets a 0. When you're all ready, you can hit save. Saves the grade right in. It's going to take you back. So I'm going to hit save and close. Perfect. It's going to take me back to the grade book. And you'll notice Bree Perkins is now failing because she didn't do that paper. But you can see all of your links down here. If you go back and switch to standard view, this brings up the color palette of your grade book, which I love. I can quickly down the line see how my students are doing based on the color of their frame. So an F is this non-penalization salmon, and you see like A's are going to be green. So it's that whole spectrum. The other part of this too is inside that drop down, you can actually get statistics. Now I'm a bit of a numbers nerd, and you get those students, and I'm guilty of this. I'm very much a type A student, where I look at something and I go, oh my God, that quiz is so hard. Everybody failed. And I'm like, I've not talked to anybody. It's just my own perception that I'm projecting out to people. So what I can actually do is I can run statistics on individual assignments to see how they're doing. So if you don't have the colors, no worries. Click on the caret, hit statistics, And this will actually tell you what was the minimum grade, the maximum grade, average grade, standard deviation, what's the grade distribution. I love grade distributions. So there's actually research on the fact that when we are hungrier, we are or tired, we're harsher graders. And I don't know if you've noticed this about yourself, but like my name it starts with P, which means I'm usually at like the curve of whether an instructor is at the end of grading for the day or at the beginning. And I can tell because I'm harsher graded when they're tired and hungry. And judges do the same thing in court cases. So if you are hungered, tired grading, you can actually look to see if your distribution is, really, really low. You may want to get that nice bell curve right here, where your students are doing. So you should have a few hundreds, a lot of 80s to 50s, and then hopefully fewer 50s and below, but it gives you that nice curve. You can also look at the frequency, so how many times you've given 100% versus like a B or C or D. It's just a really good check for you. You can also click on user statistics, and this will tell you how individual students did. And what's great about this is, let's say these 3 students were failing, I can click on their names and hit email and send them a personalized message. So it's about that early intervention of going, okay, or they didn't submit the assignment. So let's say Bree Perkins didn't submit it, she was failing. I hit email, I can send her a personalized message, be like, hey, I know she didn't submit anything. Are you okay? Are you having issues with Brightspace? Are you having issues with the course content? How can I help? So it's another way of being proactive with your students. And again, that's underneath the caret, statistics, and it brings it up to you. So the other way of grading is underneath the activity itself. And this is actually what a lot of our trainings had focused on, because this is what we encourage people to do previously. So grading from within the gradebook gives you that macro view. If I want to get more in detail with assignments, I find this to be a little bit of a richer experience because I feel more immersed into the assignment itself. You're grading from within the assignment. And that's going to be either underneath activities if it's a discussion or assignment, or underneath assessment if it's a quiz or survey. So I'm going to do an assignment today. Just take a look. I'm going to click on assignments, and you're going to notice this brings up a list of every single assignment in the class. So it's nice because I don't have to go back into content and hunt and peck to find out where the assignment is. This is all of the assignments in my class. If they are graded assignments, they will show up with a ribbon. Now I say graded, meaning that they count inside the gradebook. Even if they do not have a ribbon and do not count in the gradebook, you can still give feedback. So things like rough drafts of papers might be submitted that are not necessarily graded, but you still give feedback and interact on. Not sure how many of those we'd see in the master courses. I think most of them are graded if they're submitting it. You'll find students that if it does not count, most times they don't do it. So just a heads up. Now, if I wanted to grade is psychology a science paper, you're going to click on the arrow for the drop down. And you're going to go to where it says view submissions. If you will not have the edit submissions folder because you're a facilitator. If you are a traditional faculty who is designing their course, you may still have the ability to edit that if you need to. But I'm going to go to view submissions. Now, this is a handy tool that I found that not a lot of people use, is that they look here and they go, okay, we'll start grading. I'm good. You actually have the ability to sort how these files are presented to you. So you see the button says show search options. When I click on this, I can actually search by not just first and last name, but I can just sort by users with submissions, people without to grade them first. I can look at ones with graded unpublished submissions, so ones that I've graded but haven't actually published the content. I can look at only users with the unread ones I haven't worked on, submissions between certain dates. I can do feedback with feedback or ones I need to give feedback on. This is a really easy way for me to manage how I'm seeing all of the content in there, because it can be overwhelming, especially when you're working with a lot of students. One of the courses I teach online has 145 students typically with sensation perception. So what I do is I typically use a lot of these sorting tools to help me out, to make sure I'm not skipping anybody, I'm getting all the students that I have. The other part of this is don't be afraid to use the flag button. Now you'll notice here that if I go under the submissions tab, one of these sort options here is going to be show submissions with flags. I love using flags. I use it for my inbox as well. Sometimes we are reading a paper and we're not ready to fully write out all our thoughts, or we get interrupted. Life happens. We got stuff going on. The delivery guy comes. The dog needs to go out for a walk. And I need to get back to that assignment quickly. I can click on the flag just like that. It's flagged now. And so if I go here, show with flags, scroll up, go into the search bar, just hit enter. Now it's just going to narrow down to just the ones with the flags. So I use this as kind of like my I need to get back to this quickly type screen. Now, anytime that you're working with your submissions, and again, you can clear that search if you want to see everything, you'll see all of the submissions in line. If you go by users, you're going to see them with whoever the user is. Students can technically, depending on how the assignment's set up, submit multiple files, and it depends on the assignment itself. Some projects require you to submit, a PowerPoint and a paper and other things with it. You may see all of their files in there. That's when I like to organize by users. If I'm looking at just papers where it's one submission, I might do submissions. It's, again, whatever's good for you. Now, I have the option to click this box and download all of them at once if I want to. Or the other option is to click on the name of the file here. And if it is a .doc, .docx, .pdf, one of these standard file types, not like .pages or .notepad, you're actually going to see the preview of the document. Now, this is my caveat with this. If you are grading for formatting, like APA formatting, MLA formatting, Chicago formatting, sometimes this preview is not accurate. So I always recommend, if you're grading on formatting, click the download button and open it up in Word or open it up in Adobe, whatever you're working in. So that download button is useful if you're grading formatting. If I'm just grading on content, I'm going to read it right in here. I don't want to download 145 submissions and wait for Microsoft Word to take its dear sweet time to open. So I will actually read it. What's great about this is your student pops up here on the right. I encourage my students to add photos of themselves so I can see their lovely, bright and shining faces, which they can do underneath their profile. I can also email and chat the student from there. And what's great about this too is I can actually view their progress from the screen. So again, I'm teaching about 145 students. I like to give a personalized approach. So I like to see how they've been doing in the class just from an overview. I click on view progress and I can actually see what is their grade distribution, and also what feedback have I been giving them. So if there's a theme over the feedback, I don't have to keep that in my brain. I can see right here in line, here's the details of all the submissions that they have. I can see what grade they got on it. Even if I'm co-teaching with somebody else, I can see the feedback they've given. So it's a really easy way in going, okay, demo students getting about a 67% on assignments because they did 4 out of 6. They've never submitted late. I got 2 I have to grade for them, and I can look at some other content about them as well. So it's, again, just another way of getting to know my students from that view. As you scroll down, here's the prompt that they're actually responding to. I don't know about you, but sometimes I'm grading 3 or 4 papers or discussion forums at a time, and I go, I cannot remember which one I'm actually grading right now. So this is, I can know what the developer wanted me to have them respond to. So this is the prompt for the paper. As I scroll down here, if they had a rubric, I can just zoop, 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 click the rubric. And then here is my score. So if this paper was really good, I'm going to give them a 98. And you will always see what it's out of. What's great about the student view is it makes sure I don't fat finger something. So again, this is a 988 out of 100. It just lets me know that that's where we're at. So you're just seeing how the student sees it as well. As you scroll down, again, you have those same feedback areas you had over in the other grading area. This is just another view of doing the same thing. So I can give video feedback. I can attach a file. I can also give audio feedback from here, which I do like. So like I said, I do my grading in my Batman onesie and my couch at like 12:30 at night with a dog on my lap. So recording audio tends to be my go-to for a lot of the feedback for grades. If you were doing something like track changes, where you've downloaded this, opened it up in Word, typed your comments, you can also re-upload it by clicking add a file and then going to my computer and uploading your file to this. When you're all set, you can hit update the grade, and then you have a next student button. This moves you directly to the next student with all of their submissions. Now you'll notice if a paper has a weird formatting and D2L cannot read it for some reason, it's just going to show you the file name. And the reason for that is they don't have, not every assignment has to be a Word doc. You could have somebody submitting a statistics file or a video assignment or a cool flyer that they made that may not show up in the preview. You can just click on it, and as long as you have the program to open it on your computer, it opens right up. So this is a really good, easy way to grade through assignments, and this is linked to that gradebook. So no matter which way is more comfortable for you, if you prefer to do that macro spreadsheet view, by all means do it. Or if you prefer to get in the nitty-gritty, read the papers here, that's also okay too. Same thing for discussions. When I'm clicking on activities, go down to where it says discussions. You can see here's the list of all the discussions. Again, you can also access this from within content, nothing wrong there. I'll give a good example here. This is my introduce yourself assignment. And I was talking earlier about how you can have video assignments that are specifically designed for video, ones that are specifically designed for written. I actually made this as a video assignment for students. They have to make sure that they do a webcam shot of them doing an elevator pitch. I have a video here in line of them talking about what an elevator pitch is. I have a link to the video note feature so they know how to use it. I have an idea of what they should do in it. So again, as a facilitator, you may not have a lot of jurisdiction over how to change those type of things, but that's ways that you can give feedback. If you find that something is not clear in the directions that you're seeing in your course, speak up. This is the first iteration that these are being taught a lot of times, and these may be completely something that the course developer just doesn't even know exists. So if you find something that you like, be vocal. They're always going to be uplifting these courses with your feedback. So this is how you can change the future of how this course is being taught. So here's my elevator pitch. I've got the prompt. As I scroll down here, here's all of the threads for students. Now, there's multiple ways this can be set up. Some instructors have it to where they start the thread and students all reply in line. This is good if you are all talking about the exact same thing. I personally let students create new threads because they're like conversation points that I can jump between. I liken it, especially when we're talking online, we're recreating a lot of the things that we do in the classroom. So I might pair students together to talk amongst themselves. That's what a discussion board is doing here online. So these are these little pairs or threes or fours that they can jump between the conversations. So perfect. So here's good old demo student. So he's a student in my class. So I've got my demo student. I've clicked on the post. I'm reading through his post. If you click on the arrow next to this, you'll see the assess student button. This is how I can grade the student in line. Now, especially for discussions, I find this being a little bit easier to do than actually grading from within the gradebook. You have your student. It gives me a count, and this is something I love from Moodle that they didn't have in Moodle that we now have in D2L, is they actually show how many times that they've replied. So they have one original thread and they didn't reply. So Reggie, you were talking about, especially with PCS, you guys have that Thursday deadline for the original thread, and then they have to do the replies by Sunday. I can see this student didn't do half the assignment. Up at the top right is your score. So I can see they didn't do half the assignment. I'm going to give them a 5 out of 10. You have to make sure if you want this to go to the gradebook that you click this button, publish score on save. You also have the ability as an instructor or as a student to subscribe to a post that you think is really active or that you need to keep an eye on. This will give you notifications in the top right of your corner here where it have the 2 speech bubbles anytime that somebody replies to that post. Students by default are subscribed to the threads that they create and the ones that they interact in. You as the instructor have the ability to do this as well. You have complete control over how, when, and where you get your notifications. Up in the top right-hand corner where you have your face, when you click on this, you'll have the button that says notifications. When I click on notifications here, I can choose where I'm going to get it, so I can have it go to my Springfield College email. If I'm not in the habit of checking that, especially if I'm like a working student, I might have like a work email or a personal email that I'm more attached to. You want to get them in the habit of using their Springfield College one because we send other stuff there too, but you can actually have them add an additional email to update that too. They can also register their phone number. So I was talking about announcements before, an activity feed. They can choose to get their announcements and things text message to them. Again, I mentioned I'm a type A student. I like things like my grades when they're submitted to be text messaged to me. So I know immediately when my instructor has graded something. If you are getting just a bombardment of email, which I can imagine, especially if you're working with a lot of discussion posts, you can choose to just opt for a daily summary at the time or weekly. Or I could say never, I just don't want to hear it. But if I say daily, at 5 p.m. every single day, I get a summary of what's going on in my courses. So 1 email as opposed to 30. Now you can also get a little bit more fine-tuned with this. If I do want to get some things text message or email, you can see here's a list of all the things you could be notified about, and I can turn on and off things. As default, I think only things that are selected are assignments, content, and not even grades. So those are just the 3 things that are selected by default. You can uncheck these if you're getting a lot of email. I unchecked a lot of this stuff when I first got in the system because I was getting so many emails from D2L. So they have complete control over how, when, and where they see everything. Even things like when my instructor updates something, so if like, let's say the syllabus was updated, I want to be notified about it. Discussions when there's a new post, a quiz, the due date is coming up, they have complete control over this. They can also choose whether they want to ruin their weekend or not. I call this the ruin the weekend button. Students laugh at this every time. They can choose to be notified that there is a grade pending, saying that, hey, you got something new in the grade book, or they can choose to actually have the grade sent to them. So I may want to be notified that, hey, my quiz was graded, but I may not want to know whether I got an A, B, or C. The other important part of notifications too is that students need to know that they can actually exclude entire courses from these updates, because this is for all of their courses. If they have an instructor that is just bombarding with updates and announcements and stuff like that, they can actually choose to exclude it instead of turning it off for everybody.